So we've got two new guests who I'm sure none of you know. It sounds like we're all pretty excited for this. So with that, I give you Michael Kramer and Cade Redding.
Hello.
Can you
Test.
No. Hello.
Test.
Oh, I gotta be right on it.
Testing testicles.
Okay.
What?
All right. We'll see.
Peter.
Raise your hand in the back if you can't hear me. Chapter 8. Dragon's Fan. The Dragon Reborn. Rand walked stiff-legged and nervous at first beside the warder. Face it on your feet. It was easy for Land to say. He had not been summoned by the Amerlin seat. He was not wondering if he would be gentle before the day was done, or worse. Rand felt as if he had something caught in his throat. He could not swallow, and he wanted to badly. The corridors bustled with people, servants going about their morning chores, warriors wearing swords over lounging robes. We want to get this sound right here.
Let's get it right. Yeah.
I'll just go back and read again so we can set it. Rand walked stiff-legged and nervous at first beside the warder. Face it on your feet. Okay. It was easy for Land to say he had not been summoned by the Amerlin seat. He was not wondering if he would be gentle before the day was done, or worse. Rand felt as if he had something caught in his throat. He could not swallow, and he wanted to badly. The corridors bustled with people, servants going about their morning chores, warriors wearing swords over lounging robes. A few young boys carrying small practice swords stayed near their elders, imitating the way they walked. No sign remained of the fighting, but an air of alertness clung even to the children. Grown men looked like cats waiting for a pack of rats. Ingtar gave Rand and Lan a peculiar look, almost troubled, opening his mouth, then saying nothing as they passed him. Kajin, tall and lean and sallow, pumped his fists over his head and shouted, "Taishar Malkir! Taishar Manethrin!" True blood of Malkir. True blood of Manethrin. Rand jumped. Why did he say that? Don't be a fool, he told himself. They all know about Manethrin here. They know every old story if it has fighting in it. Burn me, I have to take a rein on myself. Rand raised his fists in reply. Taishar Sarnar. If he had made a run for it, could he lose himself in the crowd long enough to reach his horse? If she sends trackers after me... With every step, he grew more tense. As they approached the women's apartments, Lan suddenly snapped, "Cat crosses the courtyard." Startled, Rand instinctively assumed the walking stance as he had been taught, back straight but every muscle loose, as if he hung from a wire at the top of his head. It was a relaxed, almost arrogant saunter. Relaxed on the outside. He certainly did not feel it inside. He had no time to wonder what he was doing. They rounded the last corridor and stepped with each other. The women at the entrance to the women's apartments looked up calmly as they came closer. Some sat behind slanted tables, checking large ledgers and sometimes making an entry. Others were knitting or working with needle and embroidery hoop. Ladies in silks kept this watch, as well as women in livery. The arched doors stood open, unguarded except for the women. No more was needed. No Shinaran man would enter uninvited, but any Shinaran man stood ready to defend that door if needed, and he would be aghast at the need. Rand's stomach churned, harsh and acid. They'll take one look at our swords and turn us away. Well, that's what I want, isn't it? If they turn us back, maybe I can still get away. If they don't, call the guards down on us. He clung to the stance Lan had given him, as he would have to a floating branch in a flood. Holding it was the only thing that kept him from turning tail and running.
One of the Lady Amalisa's attendants, Nisura, a round-faced woman, put aside her embroidery and stood as they came to a stop. Her eyes flickered across their swords, and her mouth tightened, but she did not mention them. All the women stopped what they were doing to watch, silent and intent. "Honor to you both," Nisura said, bowing her head slightly. She glanced at Rand so quickly he was almost not sure he had seen it. It reminded him of what Perrin had said. "The Amerlin seat awaits you." She motioned, and two other ladies, not servants, they were being honored, stepped forward for escorts. The women bowed a hair more than Nisura had and motioned them through the archway. They both gave Rand a sidelong glance, then did not look.
Were they looking for all of us, or just me? Why all of us? Inside, they got the looks Rand expected. Two men in the women's apartments, where men were rare, and their swords caused more than one raised eyebrow, but none of the women spoke. The two men left knots of conversation in their path, soft murmurs too low for Rand to make out. Lan strode along as if he did not even notice. Rand kept pace behind their escorts and wished he could hear. And then they reached the Amerlin Seats chambers, with three Aes Sedai in the hall outside the door. The tall Aes Sedai, Lyanna, held her gold-flamed staff. Rand did not know the other two, one of the white Aja, one yellow by their fringe. He remembered their faces, though, staring at him as he had run through these same halls. Smooth Aes Sedai faces with knowing eyes. They studied him with arched eyebrows and pursed lips. The women who had brought Lan and Rand curtsied, handing them over to the Aes Sedai.
Are we resurrected? Lyanna looked Rand over with a slight smile. Despite the smile, her voice had a snap to it. "What have you brought the Amerlin seat today, Lan Gaiden? A young lion? Better you don't let any greens see this one, or one of them will bond him before he can take a breath. Greens like to bond them young."
Rand wondered if it was really possible to sweat inside your skin. He felt as if he was. He wanted to look at Lan, but he remembered this part of the warder's instructions. "I am Rand al'Thor, son of Tam al'Thor of the Two Rivers, which once was Manetheren. As I have been summoned by the Amerlin seat, Lyanna Sedai, so do I come. I stand ready." He was surprised that his voice did not shake once.
Lyanna blinked, and her smile faded to a thoughtful look. "This is supposed to be a shepherd, Lan Gaiden?" He was not so sure of himself this morning.
"He is a man, Lyanna Sedai," Lan said firmly. "No more and no less. We are what we are."
The Aes Sedai shook her head. "The world grows stranger every day. I suppose the blacksmith will wear a crown and speak in high chant." "Wait here." She vanished inside to announce them.
She was only gone a few moments, but Rand was uncomfortably aware of the eyes of the remaining Aes Sedai. He tried to return their gaze levelly, the way Lan had told him to, and they put their heads together, whispering. What are they saying? What do they know? Light, are they going to gentle me? Was that what Lan meant about facing whatever comes?
Lyanna returned, motioning Rand to go in. When Lan started to follow, she thrust her staff across his chest, stopping him. "Not You, Lan Gaiden. Moiraine Sedai has a task for you. Your lion cub will be safe enough by himself.
The door swung shut behind Rand, but not before he heard Lan's voice, fierce and strong, but low for his ear alone. Tashar Monitharan. Moraine sat to one side of the room, and one of the brown Aes Sedai he had seen in the dungeon sat to the other, but it was the woman in the tall chair behind the wide table who held his eyes. The curtains had been partially drawn over the arrow slits, but the gaps let in enough light behind her to make her face hard to see clearly. He still recognized her, though. The Amarlin seat. Quickly he dropped to one knee, left hand on sword hilt, right fist pressed to the patterned rug, and bowed his head. As you have summoned me, mother, so have I come. I stand ready. He lifted his head in time to see her eyebrows rise.
Do you now, boy? She sounded almost amused, and something else he could not make out. She certainly did not look amused. Stand up, boy, and let me have a look at you.
He straightened and tried to keep his face relaxed. It was an effort not to clench his hands. 3 Aes Sedai. How many does it take to gentle a man? They sent a dozen or more after Logain. Would Moraine do that to me? He met the Amarlin seat's look eye to eye. She did not blink.
Sit, boy, she said finally, gesturing to a ladder-back chair that had been pulled around squarely in front of the table. This will not be short, I fear.
Thank you, mother. He bowed his head then, as Lan had told him, glanced at the chair, and touched his sword. By your leave, mother, I will stand. The watch is not done.
The Amarlin seat made an exasperated sound and looked at Moiraine. Have you let Lan at him, daughter? This will be difficult enough without him picking up warder ways. Lan has been teaching all the boys, mother, Moiraine replied calmly. He has spent a little more time with this one than the others because he carries a sword. The brown Aes Sedai shifted on her chair. The Gaidin are stiff-necked and powerful, mother, but useful. I would not be without Thomas, as you would not lose Alric. I have even heard a few Reds say they sometimes wish for a warder, and the Greens, of course.
The 3 Aes Sedai were all ignoring him now.
This sword, the Amarlin seat said. It appears to be a heron mark blade. How did he come by that, Moiraine? Tam Althor left the 2 Rivers as a boy, mother. He joined the army of Ilion and served in the White Cloak War and the last 2 wars with Tyr. In time, he rose to be a blade master and the 2nd captain of the Companions. After the Aiel War, Tam Althor returned to the 2 Rivers with a wife from Caemlyn and an infant boy. It would have saved much had I known this earlier.
Rand stared at Moraine. He knew Tam had left the 2 Rivers and come back with an Outlander wife and the sword, but the rest? Where did you learn all that? Not in Emmons Field, unless Nynaeve told you more than she's ever told me. An infant boy? She doesn't say his son, but I am.
Against Tyr. The Amarlin seat frowned slightly. Well, there was blame enough on both sides in those wars. Fool men who would rather fight than talk. Can you tell if the blade is authentic, Varen? There are tests, mother. Then take it and test it, daughter.
The 3 women were not even looking at him. Rand stepped back, gripping the hilt hard. My father gave this sword to me, he said angrily. Nobody is taking it from me. It was only then that he realized Varen had not moved from her chair. He looked at them in confusion, trying to recover his equilibrium.
So, the Amerlin seat said, you have some fire in you. Okay.
Check, 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 check. Check. Yeah.
And the voice came from elsewhere.
I'm gonna pick up here. He looked at them in confusion. Trying to recover his equilibrium.
So, the Amerlin seat said, you have some fire in you besides whatever Lan put in. Good. You will need it.
I am what I am, Mother, he managed smoothly enough. I stand ready for what comes.
The Amerlin seat grimaced. Lan has been at you. Listen to me, boy. In a few hours, Ingtar will leave to find the stolen horn. Your friend Matt will go with him. I expect that your other friend, Perrin, will go also. Do you wish to accompany them?
Matt and Perrin are going? Why? Belatedly, he remembered to add a respectful Mother.
You know of the dagger your friend carried? A twist of her mouth showed what she thought of the dagger. That was taken too. Unless it is found, the link between him and the blade cannot be broken completely, and he will die. You can ride with them if you want, or you can stay here. No doubt Lord Agelmar will let you remain as a guest as long as you wish. I will be leaving today as well. Moiraine Sedai will accompany me, and so will Egwene and Nynaeve. So you will stay alone if you stay. The choice is yours.
Rand stared at her. She is saying I can go as I want? Is that what she brought me here for? Matt is dying. He glanced at Moiraine, sitting impassively with her hands folded in her lap. She looked as if nothing in the world could concern her less than where he went. Which way are you trying to push me, Aes Sedai? Burn me, but I'll go another. But if Matt's dying, I can't abandon him. Light, how are we going to find that dagger?
You do not have to make the choice now, the Amerlin said. She did not seem to care either. But you will have to choose before Ingtar leaves.
I will ride with Ingtar, Mother.
The Amerlin seat nodded absently. Now that that is dealt with, we can move on to important matters. I know you can channel, boy. What do you know?
Rand's mouth fell open. Caught up in worrying about Matt, her casual words hit him like a swinging barn door. All of Lan's advice and instructions went spinning. He stared at her, licking his lips. It was one thing to think she knew, entirely another to find out she really did. The sweat finally seeped out on his forehead. She leaned forward in her seat, waiting for his answer, but he had the feeling she wanted to lean back. He remembered what Lan had said. If she was afraid of you, he wanted to laugh. If she was afraid of him? No, I can't. I mean, I didn't do it on purpose. It just happened. I don't want to channel the power. I won't ever do it again. I swear it.
You don't want to, the Amerlin seat said. Well, that's wise of you, and foolish, too. Some can be taught to channel, most cannot. A few, though, have the seed in them at birth. Sooner or later, they wield the one power, whether they want to or not, as surely as roe makes fish. You will continue to channel, boy. You can't help it. And you had better learn to channel, learn to control it, or you will not live long enough to go mad. The one power kills those who cannot control its flow.
How am I supposed to learn? He demanded. Moraine and Varen just sat there, unruffled, watching him, like spiders. How? Moraine claims she can't teach me anything, and I don't know how to learn or what. I don't want to, anyway. I want to stop. Can't you understand that? To stop!
I told you the truth, Moraine said. She sounded as if they were having a pleasant conversation. Those who could teach you the male Aes Sedai are 3,000 years dead. No Aes Sedai living can teach you to touch Saidin any more than you could learn to touch Saidar. A bird cannot teach a fish to fly, nor a fish teach a bird to swim. I have always thought that was a bad saying. Varen said suddenly, there are birds that dive and swim, and in the sea of storms are fish that fly with long fins that stretch out as wide as your outstretched arms and beaks like swords that can pierce. Her words trailed off and she became flustered. Moiraine and the Amerlin seat were staring at her without expression.
Rand took the interruption to try to regain some control of himself. As Tam had taught him long ago, he formed a single flame in his mind and fed his fears into it, seeking emptiness, the stillness of the void. The flame seemed to grow until it enveloped everything, until it was too large to contain or imagine any longer. With that, it was gone, leaving in its place a sense of peace. At its edges, emotions flickered, fear and anger like black blotches, but the void held. Thought skimmed across its surface like pebbles across ice. The Aes Sedai's attention was only off him for a moment, but when they turned back to him, his face was calm. Why are you talking to me like this, Mother? He asked. You should be gentling me.
The Amerlin seat frowned and turned to Moiraine. Did Lan teach him this? No, Mother. He had it from Tam Althor.
Why? Rand demanded again.
The Amerlin seat looked him straight in the eye and said, because you are the dragon reborn.
The void rocked. The world rocked. Everything seemed to spin around him. He concentrated on nothing, and the emptiness returned, and the world steadied. No, Mother. I can channel, the light help me, but I am not Rowland Darksbane, nor Gwere Imelassin, nor Urian Stonebow. You can gentle me or kill me or let me go, but I will not be a tame false dragon on a Tarvalin leash. He heard Varen gasp, and the Amerlin's eyes widened, a gaze as hard as blue rock. It did not affect him. It slid off the void within.
Where did you hear those names? The Amerlin demanded. Who told you Tarvalin pulls the lines on any false dragon?
A friend, Mother, he said. A gleeman. His name was Tom Merrilin. He's dead now. Moraine made a sound, and he glanced at her. She claimed Tom was not dead, but she had never offered any proof, and he could not see how any man could survive grappling hand to hand with a Fade. The thought was extraneous, and it faded away. There was only the void and the oneness now.
You are not a false dragon, the Amerlin said firmly. You are the true dragon reborn.
I am a shepherd from the Two Rivers, Mother.
Daughter, tell him the story. A true story, boy. Listen well. Moiraine began speaking. Rand kept his eyes on the Amerlin's face, but he heard. Nearly 20 years ago, the Aiel crossed the spine of the world, the Dragon Wall. The only time they have ever done so. They ravaged through Cairhien, destroyed every army sent against them, burned the city of Cairhien itself, and fought all the way to Tarvalon. It was winter and snowing, but cold or heat mean little to an Aiel. The final battle, the last that counted, was fought outside the shining walls in the shadow of Dragon Mount. In 3 days and 3 nights of fighting, the Aiel were turned back, or rather, they turned back. For they had done what they came to do, which was to kill King Laman of Cairhien for his sin against the tree. It is then that my story begins, and yours.
They came over the dragon wall like a flood, all the way to the shining walls. Rand waited for the memories to fade, but it was Tam's voice he heard. Tam, sick and raving, pulling up secrets from his past. The voice clung outside the void, clamoring to get in.
I was one of the accepted then, Moiraine said, as was our mother, the Amerlin seat. We were soon to be raised to sisterhood, and that night we stood attendance on the then Amerlin. Her keeper of the chronicles, Gitara Moroso, was there. Every other full sister in Tarvalon was out healing as many wounded as she could find, even the Reds. It was dawn. The fire on the hearth could not keep the cold out. The snow had finally stopped, and in the Amerlin's chambers in the White Tower, we could smell the smoke of outlying villages burned in the fighting.
Battles are always hot, even in the snow. Had to get away from the stink of death. Tam's delirious voice clawed at the empty calm inside Rand. The void trembled and shrank, steadied, then wavered again. The Amerlin's eyes bored at him. He felt sweat on his face again. It was all a fever dream, he said. He was sick. He raised his voice. My name is Randall Thor. I am a shepherd. My father is Tam Thor, and my mother was...
Moiraine had paused for him, but now her unchanging voice cut him off, soft and relentless. The Carithan cycle, the prophecies of the dragon, says that the dragon will be reborn on the slopes of Dragon Mount, where he died during the breaking of the world. Gitara Sedai had the foretelling sometimes. She was old, her hair as white as the snow outside, but when she had the foretelling, it was strong. The morning light through the windows was strengthening as I handed her a cup of tea. The Amerlin seat asked me what news there was from the field of battle, and Gitara Sedai started up out of her chair, her arms and legs rigid, trembling, her face as if she looked into the pit of doom at Sheol Ghul, and she cried out, "He is born again! I feel him! The dragon takes his first breath on the slope of Dragon Mount. He is coming! He is coming! Light, help us! Light, help the world! He lies in the snow and cries like the thunder. He burns like the sun." And she fell forward into my arms, dead.
Slope of the mountain. Heard a baby cry. Gave birth there alone before she died. Child, blue with cold.
Rand tried to force Tam's voice away. The void grew smaller.
A fever dream, he gasped. I couldn't leave the child. I was born in the Two Rivers. Always knew you wanted children, Kari.
He pulled his eyes away from the Amerlin's gaze. He tried to force the void to hold. He knew that was not the way, but it was collapsing in him.
Yes, lass. Rand is a good name. I am Rand Thor.
His legs trembled.
And so we knew the dragon was reborn, Moiraine went on. The Amerlin swore us to secrecy, we too, for she knew not all the sisters would see the rebirth as it must be seen. She set us to searching. There were many fatherless children after that battle, too many. But we found a story that one man had found an infant on the mountain. That was all. A man and an infant boy. So we searched on. For years we searched, finding other clues, poring over the prophecies. He will be of the ancient blood and raised by the old blood. That was one. There were others. But there are many places where the old blood, descended from the age of legends, remains strong. Then, in the two rivers, where the old blood of Manetheren seethes still like a river in flood, in Emmon's field, I found 3 boys whose name days were within weeks of the battle at Dragonmount, and one of them can channel. Did you think Trollocs came after you just because you are Taviran? You are the dragon reborn.
Rand's knees gave way. He dropped to a squat, hands slapping the rug to catch himself from falling on his face. The void was gone. The stillness shattered. He raised his head, and they were looking at him, the 3 Aes Sedai. Their faces were serene, smooth as unruffled ponds, but their eyes did not blink.
My father is Tam Althor, and I was born.
They stared at him, unmoving.
They're lying. I am not what they say. Some way, somehow they're lying, trying to use me. I will not be used by you.
An anchor is not demeaned by being used to hold a boat, the Amerlin said. You were made for a purpose, Rand al'Thor. When the winds of Tarmangaiden scour the earth, he will face the shadow and bring forth light again in the world. The prophecies must be fulfilled, or the Dark One will break free and remake the world in his image. The last battle is coming, and you were born to unite mankind and lead them against the Dark One.
Baalzamon is dead,
Rand said hoarsely, and the Amerlin snorted like a stable hand.
If you believe that, you are as much a fool as the Damani. Many there believe he is dead, or say they do, but I notice they still won't risk naming him. The Dark One lives, and he is breaking free. You will face the Dark One. It is your destiny.
It is your destiny. He had heard that before, in a dream that had maybe not been entirely a dream. He wondered what the Amerlin would say if she knew Baalzamon had spoken to him in dreams. It's done with. Baalzamon is dead. I saw him die. Suddenly it came to him that he was crouching like a toad, huddling under their eyes. He tried to form the void again, but voices whirled through his head, sweeping away every effort. It is your destiny, babe,
lying in the snow. You are the dragon reborn. Baalzamon is dead. Rand is a good name, Kari. I will not be used.
Drawing on his own native stubbornness, he forced himself back upright. Face it on your feet. You can keep your pride, at least. The 3 Aes Sedai watched with no expression. What? With an effort, he steadied his voice. What are you going to do to me?
Nothing, the Amerlin said, and he blinked. It was not the answer he had expected, the one he had feared. You say you want to accompany your friend with Ingtar, and you may. I have not marked you out in any way. Some of the sisters may know you are Taviran, but no more. Only we 3 know who you truly are. Your friend Perrin will be brought to me as you were, and I will visit your other friend in the infirmary. You may go as you will, without fear that we will set the Red Sisters on you.
Who you truly are. Anger flared up in him, hot and corrosive. He forced it to stay inside, hidden. Why?
The prophecies must be fulfilled. We let you walk free knowing what you are, because otherwise the world we know will die, and the Dark One will cover the earth with fire and death. Mark me. Not all the Aes Sedai feel the same. There are some here in Faldara who would strike you down if they knew a tenth of what you are and feel no more remorse than for gutting a fish. But then there are men who've no doubt laughed with you who would do the same if they knew. Have a care, Rand al'Thor, Dragon Reborn.
He looked at each of them in turn. Your prophecies are no part of me. They returned his gaze so calmly it was hard to believe they were trying to convince him he was the most hated, the most feared man in the history of the world. He had gone right through fear and come out the other side in some place cold. Anger was all that kept him warm. They could gentle him or burn him to a crisp where he stood, and he no longer cared. A part of Lan's instructions came back to him. Left hand on the hilt, he twisted the sword behind him, catching the scabbard in his right, then bowed, arms straight. By your leave, mother, may I depart this place?
I give you leave to go, my son.
Straightening, he stood there a moment longer. I will not be used, he told them. There was a long silence as he turned and left.
The silence stretched on in the room after Rand left until it was broken by a long breath from the Amerlin. I cannot make myself like what we just did, she said. It was necessary, but did it work, daughters? Moiraine shook her head, just the slightest movement. I do not know, but it was necessary. And is necessary, Varen agreed. She touched her forehead, then peered at the dampness on her fingers. He is strong, and as stubborn as you said, Moiraine, much stronger than I expected. We may have to gentle him after all before... Her eyes widened. But we cannot. Can we? The prophecies. The light forgive us for what we are loosing on the world. The prophecies, Moiraine said, nodding. Afterwards, we will do as we must, as we do now. As we must, the Amerlin said. Yes. But when he learns to channel, the light help us all. The silence returned.
So that was kind of awesome. Let's give it up one more time. It's always awesome to get to see that. And guess what? We get to do that one more time tomorrow night. So a little bit about agenda. If you're new to WoTCon, after this, tonight we have a bunch of different things going on. So there's a poker tournament that'll be over in the game room near registration. We have Watchinary going on. We have trivia going on. We have Black Tower Podcast is recording going on, and probably more that I'm forgetting. Is there anything else? And the Dusty Wheel is going on. So there's lots going on. Yes, Watchinary is happening, I think, over here. So after we're all done. So guys, thank you for joining us for the VIP dinner. Hope you all enjoyed it. Grab drinks and have fun, and we'll see you tomorrow.